Well, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're doing it to, I hope you're doing it with a little dash of savoir-faire in a medium tank, like that T-34-85 is, and what a coincidence, because I happen to be driving a medium tank as well, only mine is a Chinese medium. What a professional Segway artist I am, and what a great tank this is. This is the Tier 8 Premium. The new Tier 8 Premium. If you're watching this, you have probably already seen the official Wargaming video that should be up on the Asia server portal by now. This won't be released till after that video goes live. And the reason that you actually have a full in-depth 30-odd minute review on a tank that has only just gone live on the server portal is because this video is all from the live Asia server. I was lucky enough to get a hold of one of these little beauties to run through the paces and take footage of on the server itself. And the first thing that'll pop out to you is just how much it looks like the T-54. It's a near identical copy of the T-54 in terms of aesthetics. It does, however, have some very, very different stats. In fact, it's a combination of multiple Russian mediums with the most common commonalities. The tank it shares the most commonalities with is actually the T-44. But you can't really put a foot wrong if you're driving a Russian medium. And although this is a Chinese tank, it feels exactly like the rest of the clan. From the T-34-85, the T-34, the T-43, the KV-13, the T-54, the 62A, the Object 140, they're all superb tanks. And this Chinese tank is very much the jobby as well. It's exactly in that vein. And by that vein, I mean low profile tanks for the most part, with good mobility, very agile tanks, good at brawling. Some of them have very strong armor profiles, and this T59 actually combines quite a few of those traits. Now, the real joy in it, of course, is that it's a premium tank. So a lot of people have been screaming for this tank for quite some time because they want to play a Tier 8 Premium. They want the gameplay of Tier 8. They want the ability to make credits and all that, but they don't want to do it in a heavy tank. And as much as I love the IS-6 and I think it's amazing, and the T-34 and all the premiums you can get a hold of, they are a particular style of gameplay. And what this tank gives you access to is a true medium game where you can run around, do the business, engage in brawls and dogfights, get out on flanks, and generally influence the battle with mobility rather than just sitting still in spawn or pushing a one line. And it's glorious in that it's a premium matchmaking tank. So you only ever see Tier 8 and Tier 9. And that being the case, you won't have to deal with Tier 10s. Now, a lot of tanks struggle with premium matchmaking penetration values, but like the IS-6, this tank, though, doesn't have terrible penetration values. In fact, the penetrations on the 100mm gun, you can see here, the 100mm Type 59 gun, are better than the corresponding penetration numbers for the T-44. 181mm on your AP and 241 on your APCR. Now, where it does fall down a touch is in terms of dispersion. 0.39 is certainly nothing to write home about, and aim time, 2.5, isn't particularly fantastic. And your rate of fire, well, I'll just speak to that for a moment. You can see it's 6 rounds per minute. The T-44 that you can see there is 6.67, and again the penetration you can see 175 and 235, but it has 0.35 dispersion and a 2.3 second aim time. So, I mean, the 44 is a great tank. I really enjoy driving it, and this tank is very, very comparable in terms of the gun with the T-44. In fact, the penetration numbers are better, yet it is a premium tank. Now, the reason you can get away with it if you're wargaming doing that and not calling it too overpowered is because it only fires 6 rounds a minute. And that's where the rub is with mediums. It's quite a funny one. Tier 7 actually has a whole heap of mediums with excessively high damage per minute numbers. And by that I mean if they were to just fire at a target non-stop while it doesn't move, they'd put out X amount of damage over the course of 60 seconds. Namely the Comet, which is hilariously 2400 damage per minute. The T43 is something like 2200. The Chi-Ri is about 2400 as well, the new Japanese Tier 7 autoloader. This little number here is only going to come in at around 1680 damage per minute, which is below even the T44. What it does, however, have going for it is a very, very interesting armor profile and that low slung Russian brilliance, which enables you to peek-a-boom and side hug tanks when brawling. And it's that mobility and that versatility that makes up for all those issues. And the fact that you never see Tier 10 means that real low DPM won't penalise you too much. I mean, in a Tier 10 match, that's just not going to cut it, that much damage per minute. And a 280 Alpha certainly won't put any Tier 10 off. But let's speak a little bit to the playstyle here. And you can see here, that's a legitimate T54, and it looks exactly the same. Very, very funny that you drive around in the T54, and if you've driven a lot of games in a T54, the T59, you sometimes get carried away because you feel like you're in a T54. I mean, you can see here the pace is pretty good on it. It's solid enough in terms of speed and mobility. It's not quite up to T44 standards, but the T44 is probably the most mobile and agile medium at Tier 8. So, I mean, that's not saying a whole lot. We'll probably have a look at the armor profile now, and I'm just going to talk to you about what makes this tank tick, what makes it work, and why it is actually quite a solid little number, despite the fact that it doesn't have huge damage numbers. Now, the first thing is you're going to note the turret on this tank is where most of the armor is, but it actually has a stronger frontal upper glacis than the T44 does. That's just the start of things. Where this tank really excels is in its ability to angle. Now, that might sound a little bit disingenuous because it doesn't have great, you can see that's the frontal armor there with the 175mm of the T44 standard AP. So most Tier 8s are going to pen you through the front. But when you angle the tank and you find a slight incline or a little mound or a little hill, as I'm going to show you plenty of video of it, so it's not going to be terribly mysterious. But you can then take advantage of the fact that the turret armor is fairly strong. It's not impervious at all. It's much like the Object 140's turret armor. As long as you keep moving, it can be a hard pen. But if you sit really still and let people shoot at you without moving your turret, you're going to get nailed. Now you can see as we switch up to Apcr, and that's got about 235 pen for the T44, things become more green. But you can see still that upper glacis isn't that weak if you angle it. It's actually quite a bouncy area, and if you angle it severely enough, it becomes a red auto bounce zone. And that's where the armor isn't necessarily thick enough, but the angle is so severe that it gets to 70 degrees, which will bounce automatically regardless of the penetration values of the armor, unless you have triple the armor thickness in terms of millimeters on your caliber of weapon, and that's not going to happen at that because it's 90 odd millimeters of armor, so that won't be an issue for you. Now this is the far right flank of Temple, the new map. You might have seen Rux's lovely video review of it, and it was bloody excellent actually, so you should watch that if you haven't. You can see how you're getting bounces here. Look at the way my tank is angled. It's exceptionally far to the right. It's almost over angled, so you'd think the right drive wheel would be visible to the enemy. But do you see how the hill is sloped in front of me? When my gun becomes available, when the shot becomes available, my armor is nearly at the exact same angle as the hill. So anyone that is coming across can only hit that upper glacis at the front, and they can't do much more than bounce off that. You could fire some HE at my turret, and you might pen it too if you fired AP or APCR into it. But there's no guaranteed pens because the turret has quite a lot of round and It's got a hell of a lot of round on it. Can we put more round in it? No, it's got quite a lot of angles and slopes that will ricochet bullets off pretty successfully. Now you'll see here, the reason I've got this video is that is another Type 59 from another lucky sod, and we're going to take turns bouncing off each other's turrets, but I just wanted to give you a look at what it looks like when you actually have a Type 59. And I'm actually not even really trying to shoot here. I just want to get that guy's turret up. Oh, maybe I've got the wrong video. There you go. You can see this is with APC ammunition, armor piercing composite rigid, and that's got about 245 average pen for me. And you can see there's lots of spots there that are red zones which you won't hit. Oh, that real band around there when he turns around is a red zone and you can't hit it. And the tops, and that's with about 250mm of penetration. There's also lots of little angles and spots there where you won't penetrate. So while it's not impervious, they've got to be firing 250mm to be able to pen it really successfully, and you've got to be sitting still. And that means that you can move backwards and forwards at very, very severe angles and bounce off your front glacis and then bounce off your turret as well. Now this is no secret for anyone that drives a T54 particularly, or a T62A or an Object 140, because that's how they work. But you're the first in the Chinese line, and if you haven't driven one of these tanks before and you're buying the T59 because you want to become a medium hero, then that's something you need to take into account. And you'll see we're doing it again here. You can see the little slope in front of me, and when the shot becomes available to them, that's when we're right at the edge of the slope and we're really only stopping to look and fire and then move again. We never really sit still. You don't give a sucker an even break, and that's exactly what we're about here. They come out, they expose their sides to get the hits in, and we move backwards and forwards at that really severe angle so that the upper plate and the turret is the only thing that's become available for them. And you might not always hit your shots, and if you sit still, you will get penetrated, as you saw that J Panther there, the Ag Panther did actually pen me. Just to rub it in even more, team, we're going to talk about it one last time. Have a look. Here I am on Lost Temple again. I have an entire enemy team in front of me. Not many tanks you could do this with that are mediums. However, you can certainly do it with this one, and you'll see all the shots that are bouncing off the top of my turret. Because we're not sitting still. And we're in a tier 8 game, because we've got premium matchmaking. We quite often will be in just tier 8 games. And because of that premium matchmaking, we are able to meet a lot of tanks that don't have enormous 300mm penetration numbers, which you will find in your tier 9 and 10s particularly, on their, their premium ammunition, where they'll go straight through this turret like a knife through hot butter. A hot knife through butter. A knife through hot butter would be a liquid. Anyway, that's enough of today's chemistry lesson. I hope you're getting the point. You want to get this tank into situations where you can really exploit this very, very strong turret and steep, when angled, upper glacis. Now, I did exceptionally well in this tank, and you might say, well, this looks boring as batshit. I actually don't mind this because it's a bit of a change up, a bit of a change of pace. Playing a medium to grind credits, it's much better than playing the old IS6, which I played a tremendous amount of to grind credits when I was doing the British line, and now I'm starting to grind the credits for the Japanese line, and I'm doing it through the T59 instead of the IS6 because it's a little bit different and it's a lot more fun, and it partners particularly well with IS6s. As a tank, I find that the IS6 is amazing. It's brilliant. It's all slope, all angles. It's very, very tough to get a hold of, and it holds the line exceptionally well. And this, partnered with an IS6, gives you a tank that can get out on the flanks and put the hurt on, while the IS6 is holding the heavies at bay. IS6 is just mobile enough to get and help out as well. You can see you're going to meet a lot of tier 7s, a lot of tier 6s, a lot of tier 8s. And the tank's excellent versus those tanks. It really does brawl very well. And you can see here, this poor old Churchill, we're severely angling that upper plate. And just hoping and hoping. They're starting to fire HE there. That was a HE shell incoming. There you go. He's nearly done. Now there's a little bit of trouble on my right. It's a great tank for brawling. And how many times do you do this in the IS6? We're going to be doing this and still earning credits. It doesn't get much better than that. I tend to think anyway. When you play as many games as I do to actually get through and buy new tanks, because I've got to have new tanks to review. There's just no two ways around it. But I've got to buy them. You really start to look for things that are different. And you can see I've pushed up on the flank here on Lost Temple. I've caught them all unawares. I think it's Ricochet in the IS6, or is it Skid? I can't remember. And he's on the right. And we've now got this IS6 coming around. This KV-1S isn't really paying attention. But we're going to have a bit of a brawl with this IS6. And you turn under the gun in this tank. That's another thing that it does really well. Yeah, it's Rico in the IS6 with me. You turn under the gun. And what that means is you stop on a dime, you shove it into a severe turn. This KV-1S is not going to get out of the way, so we hide behind him for a tick. That IS6 only has eyes for me. But he can't get the shot. Yeah, turning under the gun. So basically what you want to do is put it in a full traverse and then go back the opposite direction you were coming from. And if you're playing against a tank that doesn't have good gun depression, like an IS6 or say, not an IS7, T32 does. It has great gun depression, but some of the Brit tanks don't, or a Panther or an E50 or something. Then they only get shots into your turret, and the turret is the best part of your armor. So that's really what you want to have. You want to have tanks getting shots just into your turret. Go people is actually meant to be good game people there, no worries at all. So onwards and upwards. Now one of the things that you might note is I don't have any spectacular games in this tank for the video. I only really managed to get a hold of recording the first 40 or so games, or get the first 40 or so games in a position where I could actually record them. And that being the case, I missed some of the better ones, but there is a mastery in here somewhere. Wasn't particularly tough because there wasn't a lot of tanks on the server at the time. It doesn't blow you away with its damage. It's one of those tanks where you build your damage over the course of the game or an afternoon. It's much like not a glass cannon at all, because the glass cannon's where you don't have the armor, you just have all the boom. This one's, it's a thinking man's tank at times, but it's strong enough that if you're just learning mediums, it really will work for you as well. And at tier 8, you're going to see a lot of tier 6s like that Hellcat, and you can really punish them and bully them out in the flanks. I think the best strength of any premium matchmaking tank is the fact that you won't see tier 10, and you're going to see predominantly tier 8, and it gives you the opportunity to partner up with another premium matchmaking tank and make a little bit of love. Now, what I was talking about in terms of flexibility is evident here. You can see up top, I can't remember if it's Ricochet or Skid or Chapos or someone's up there at the moment. We'll know soon enough. They're holding the line. At the same time as they're holding the line, I'm down here on the flank doing the business. Now, if this was a standard double IS6 platoon, we'd just be pushing up there, playing the heavy game, always playing the heavy game. And when you've done 600 or 700 games of the heavy game in an IS6 and another 600 or 700 games of the heavy game in a T34, you're more than ready to switch it up and try out an old T59 for a little bit of love. Now, that's one of the new Japanese, the ST1. He's got no problems penning me. You're probably going to have trouble angling enough at the right time without exposing too much of that drive wheel in open combat, but it doesn't mean you can't try it. SU-100. Now, I don't have any hard numbers too on the camo. The gun depression, it would appear to be at 5 degrees, -5 degrees, which is exactly the same as the T54. I think T54 is -5 as well, and the good old T62A. They both bring up those kind of numbers. And if you've driven the 54 and you've driven the 62A, then you'll really, really feel comfortable driving this tank. It's the exact same style of game. In that you don't have gun depression. So you've got to find opportunities to get that gun down without exposing the turret too much. And that's what I'm trying to do right here. Wait for him to fire, and then I pull out to take the shot. We got an ammo rack. You never knock an ammo rack back. That's one of the key rules of any engagement. Always take your ammo racks and be happy you've got them. There's only a Tiger 1 left, so we obviously win this one going away. And most of the games were like this. If you're playing with a good player and they're in an IS-6, that's a hell of a duo to have to deal with. And you can see what I was talking about there, driving under the gun and then giving them nothing but turret to shoot at. Makes life very difficult for heavy tanks. And then side hugging, that's hugging the side of the tank, moving backwards and forwards, so that all they can see is one very small part of your armor, which is your turret, and it's never really an aimed shot or a shot they get, which is what they get if you're at medium to long range. Sometimes you're much better off, instead of circle of deathing going around and around and around, to actually just get right up close and personal and do the business that way, side hugging a tank. Because it can be exceptionally difficult, especially if you're in a 62A or an Object 140 and you're playing against an E100 or a Mouse or even a T110 E5. They will have difficulty getting the gun down to bear on you. Now we've gone the caves area and we're spotting. Again, I'm not sure if this is in a IS-6 or a KV-5 plat. I think this might be the KV-5. Could be with Skid or with Aegon. And this is, again, just showing that tiny little bit of turret, getting it to a point where you can move out and hit, and then back it away. It's mobile enough to do it. I mean, it's so simple, isn't it? This is how people make a killing in Russian mediums. It went off my hands, Your Honour. This is me accidentally pressing buttons like a boss. There you go. Accidentally firing and then pressing adrenaline. Good stuff, Bushka. I could have been on the phone for this, you never know. It happens a lot. We're just looking at spots, and I play conservatively. I'll put it out there right now. A lot of people don't like it, and there's certainly an ethos on the Asia server at least. I don't know if it's on NA and the Russian server, where some idiots will call you a coward. Like, they'll actually put a physical manifestation on the idea that you don't charge in a YOLO, or that you're not playing fair with them. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is not World of Tanks fair. It's not World of Jousting Sticks. It's not let's all get together and give everyone a fair turn. It's World of Tanks Blitz, and you only get paid for winning. You earn more credits and you get a better win rate, and that's what you do. You don't want to give people opportunities when you don't have to. There's Skid in the KV-5 smashing people up, and that's what I'm all about with this tank. You've got a couple of strengths and a couple of weaknesses. Your gun isn't particularly strong, and while your mobility is decent, it's not amazing, but your armor profile can be extreme if you let it be extreme. And the key is, it can be extreme, but you have to physically let it happen. And Skid finishes off the IS-3. This is one of the best parts. We've had so many big heavy tanks as premiums, and we've had tanks with premium matchmaking for eons and eons, but we've never had the ability to mix it up with a premium matchmaking medium. The M10's a great medium. I really enjoy it, and it's a tier 7, but it's very different to this. It's not the same kind of medium tank at all, and this is certainly the right kind of medium tank. You can see we're just driving along, building damage as we go. One of the keys to this game is obviously I spotted a lot of targets, and while they were spotted, a lot of damage was done. And you'll note here too, I don't know if it's this game, anytime you track a tank, if you want to get a mastery easily, and this is dead set, keep a tank tracked. Track them as often as possible. You'll do damage going through the drive wheel, and while they're tracked, anytime someone smashes them, especially if you're in a tier 10 game and you've got a big TD with you or something, you'll get half the damage that is given to the team as experience. Like, you will absolutely reap the experience in. So that's what you get. There's I think that's 3 kills, about 3k damage, something around that. I don't think we ever really got to 4K in this, which is surprising, because you'd think you would. Yeah, spotter's medal. There you go. That's whether you get the 1244, a bit low. Yeah, 1483 assisted damage. That'll do it for you. Here we are on Falls Creek. Now, this is the last video, boys and girls. You'll have had enough of me warbling away in your ear. I like to get on the right-hand side here on Falls Creek. There's a very, very nice part of the map where you can do what we talked about earlier, over-angle the tank, extend it out just so they can not quite see your driver. There's someone saying Bushka and Type 59. This is when the Type 59 was obviously not on the server and everyone was like wanting to know about it. And I'm with Edwin Gilbert, another one of the Storm Boys. This is a great spot there. Now, I've looked at the teams. They've only got the 2 mediums, and I've got Edwin with me. We're going to push up. Uppity up. We're into the cap circle, and I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes here. Anyway, I'm looking for people. They often come down this flank right about there, but no one's seen yet. Now, the 59 is pretty nimble. You can see there, I mean, it's not super quick, but it's mobile enough to really do the business, and you don't have to worry about it too much. You can get up on spots like this and minimize that poor gun depression. We can actually go up the hill, and I hate that, where it actually tracks down, and you've got to watch out. It'll track back. See how it tracks back down to the, I don't know why it does it. You can't get it to sit. Is that not the most annoying bug in the world, or what? Tell me that's not the most annoying bug in the world. I'll tell you you're wrong. So here we are. We're out and about. Edwin calls for the Ferdinand in a sec. He's just knocked the Panther on. He's reloading. He's going to call a 30, and I will respond in the affirmative. That's what we're going to go for. Ferdinand time. And you can see we're using AP predominantly here, saving the APCR and really conserving hit points. I do play quite conservatively. I make no bones about it. I don't always. Quite often, you can ask Snake Eyes and the boys, I will go absolute YOLO like a lunatic at times. And I think that's just a result of playing so much games where I'm worried, well, not worried, but I want to win, so I don't blow the all the hit points at the start, and it means that at the end of the game you're able to be more influential. And I tell everyone that in the forums and YouTube and such, and then I go out occasionally and just charge like a lunatic. If you've watched the Twitch streams, you probably know that occasionally I do it, but very, very rarely. Now, 3-on-3 here. We've taken it down to 3-on-2. That's grand. They've got a couple of big TDs left. That SU-152 and the 30 can both put the damage out. So there's 2-on-2. And I'm just looking for an opportunity here to put shots into the SU-152. Now, we have... See, I'm being not conservative here. This is playing smart. I'm just not going to give them my hit points in any easy way, shape or manner. And this SU-122-44 cannot help himself. He wants to get involved. I'm looking for opportunities, just shots of opportunity, backing up. It's a great tank, isn't it? Isn't it lovely? To have a tank like this to grind in is an absolute pleasure. Now, this SU-122-44 YOLOs straight down into the 30 and gets hammered for it. Now I'm waiting for this SU-152 to back off. I've been conserving my hit points for a long time. Now is the time for action. We're going to cop one, but we've conserved them, so we will get past him, take the shot, and we're happy to hit point trade right now because it's going to mean we take one gun off. However, now we've got to get up here before this screaming SU-152 gets to us. The only way out is up the top. He's turning. He's going to get us. Oh, that was brutal. But there's our chance. We've got to get into him now. And this is where a medium tank is the most fun. In situations like this, we're going to out-turn him. We're just going to out-turn him. He doesn't have the traverse to keep up. And that's it. Ball game all over. Actually, this isn't the last map. I think we've got one more on Fort Despair. Sorry, team, you thought we were done with me. But that is not the case. I think this is a first class. This one, about 3.5k. It really illustrates the value of the tank. But the next map shows you better than anything else I could actually say just how well this tank can perform in Tier 8 matches. You also have to remember something about Tier 8. When you're a Tier 8 tank, you're going to see 6 and 7. A lot of the guys at Tier 6 and 7, and indeed at Tier 8, are still driving tanks where they haven't completed the grind. They've got some items on the tank that are stock. Their crews aren't always going to be 100%. They might not have the top penetration guns. When you get to Tier 9 and 10, that is far less the case. And as such, a tank like this, which has fairly strong armor, can come across opponents where they just can't be penned in the right situation, given the right circumstances. Now, this is one of my favorite moves. I don't know if this is going to become popular because you'll see it a lot more in my videos. I do it constantly, especially with Russian mediums. You'll see that my whole right side is safe from the, unless I point myself out like that. I just want to clear that bloke off so I can actually bounce them down. And while I'm doing that, I'm just bouncing shots off the turret, because all they can really see over there is the very top of my turret. So my right side is safe, and my actual upper glacis on the front is going to be at a very steep angle. And all I'm doing is, you'll see the weak spot there, the IS-6. At the very front there is a hatch. That's where you should be shooting. If you're not already, you should start doing that. Tiger and a Jagdpanzer 4 over there. We bounced an awful lot of shots in this match, mainly because this angle we're at is an auto bounce zone. We're just about at that perfect 70-degree angle, and people firing from that hill over there can't do much about it. And we'll just keep bouncing shots till the cows come home from this position. And this is what I'm talking about. There's a lot of tanks over there that are Tier 6s and Tier 7s. I'm pretty convinced that that Tiger 1 might not have the top gun. I don't know if the Jagdpanther 2 does. The Jagdpanther 2 does, because as you can see there, he's bouncing a lot. But that, you know, straight through that, remember that driver's hatch I was telling you about? Straight through it on IS-6, 245mm of pen will do that for you. And we are continuing to bounce shots, and we're going to force them to come up here and play our game. And they've had to come to the cap. This is the beauty of this move here on Fort Despair. We bounce one, move forward, bounce another. What an angle this is. Purpose built for just such an occasion. If that doesn't illustrate to you how you should be driving this tank, absolutely nothing will. You can brawl. You've seen me brawl. You've seen me move it around. Don't do it too early. Don't do it too often. Do it just when circumstances call for it, and you'll be incredibly happy with the tank. Look, it's mobile. It's got enough gun to work with. It's got premium matchmaking. It's strong enough to bounce a whole lot of things. It makes credits hand over fist like any good premium does. If you're thinking of buying one, I really can't recommend it enough. It's a fun tank. Is it as strong as an IS-6? Well, probably not, but an IS-6 is an incredibly strong, some would say overpowered tank. The T59, not so much, and that was Hoodie there, and I'd like to thank Hoodie and Edwin Gilbert and Rico and Snake Eyes and Skid and Agon and all the boys who helped out carrying me along in this tank. We ended up with an enormously high win ratio after 100 games, and it's certainly not that good a tank, but if you pair it up with someone that can really play in an IS-6 or a KV-5, you'll absolutely slaughter it. So there you go, boys and girls, a Type 59. I'm very happy with it. I hope you'll be happy with it. If you haven't already checked it out, why not check out Patreon if you're looking to become a sponsor of the channel. You're all a bunch of lovely human beings, and there's certainly more coming. Merry Christmas, team, and ho, 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 ho. Enjoy yourself.